Good evening, folks, and welcome to Here's the Deal. I'm your host, Shiloh, and I got my trusty co-host, Mr. Marvin. How are you?
I'm doing not bad for a second Monday. I'll take it.
Yeah. It's been one of those days, huh?
Yeah, it feels like it. First of the year, still dealing with the residual effects of the full moon. Everybody a little cranky after dealing with their family for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we got quite the show on. We've got the challengers for District 30 tonight on the show.
we actually have a pretty good lineup the next couple shows here. We have District 30 tonight. We have Lori on Friday tentatively for National Committee Women, and then we have District 8 on next Tuesday. So
yeah, we've
meet
got
your politicians.
Yeah, we've got quite the deal. That's for sure. So, these gentlemen from District 30, we'll bring them on here in just a second. They announced here a couple weeks ago, and Marvin, I know you reached out to them, and they politely came on, and so I'm looking forward to what they have to say and meeting them and getting their word out and seeing how this all goes for them. So we have Dave Charles, Adam Rose, and Justis Amundson, all from District 30. So we'll bring them on. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
Thanks for being with us tonight. So you guys are the challengers for District 30, and we just want to go around the table here and introduce yourselves and give a short intro. How about we start with you, Justis?
Yeah, sure, Shiloh. So my name is Justis Amundson. I am a husband, a Christian. I would say I'm a conservative Republican, and I am the district chairman for the District 30 Republican Party. I'm serving on my second term, and I'm also a member of the NDGOP State Committee and a member of the Presidential Caucus Committee.
Oh, wow, you're pretty busy then.
And I'm a candidate for State House. That's the most important. That's the reason I'm on here.
Yeah,
you're a candidate for State House for District 30. Okay, how about you, Mr. Dave Charles?
Okay, my name is Dave Charles, and I'm a fourth generation North Dakotan, and I absolutely love this state, and I'm concerned about, as a resident of North Dakota, where things are going. And I have a history from my great-grandfather, grandfather, and my dad, myself, serving in the military. So we've served our country. It's worth fighting for. That's why I'm here. When I hear what's going on with our state and energy, my background is electrical engineer, electric utility business. I understand and have experiences with regional transmission organizations. I understand how North Dakota is now, how it fits in as an energy producer, and the constraints and the problems that we're now facing, and the concerns that I have in the upper Northwest, up in your area, in the Bakken. In addition, I have some issues with education. My daughter, my oldest daughter, is a teacher here in Bismarck High. I have a younger daughter who's an engineer with Montana Dakota Utilities. And so we, as a family, we stick together, and we are concerned about where North Dakota's heading. It's worth fighting for. And so here I am. I'm not a politician, but as a retired guy, I've got some time on my hands to actually throw my experiences to help the legislature deal with the complexities of what's going on with the electrical world that North Dakota finds itself. If you look at it between the regional transmission groups, it's a Swiss cheese, and all of our urban areas are one RTO, and all of the rural areas are another RTO. I sit on 2 electric co-op boards, both here at Capital Electric in Bismarck and Central Power, which sends power transmission systems throughout central North Dakota. And I see the concerns that we need going forward in our development as an energy producer. So anyway, that's why, one of the reasons why I'm here on this team with Justin Adam.
We appreciate your time this evening. So
great.
Mr. Adam Rose.
Yeah, my name is Adam Rose. I'm a candidate for the state senate for District 30. First and foremost, I am a Christian, and then I'm a proud North Dakotan. I'm a student at University of North Dakota online, actually. And I come from a lineage of North Dakotan farmers and small business owners. And so I was always taught, if you come across a problem, if you can solve it with your own hands, you should do it. And that's why I wanted to get involved. I got sick of seeing problems that I couldn't solve. And so I figured, why not put myself in a position where I can serve my state, serve my constituents well.
Well, we appreciate your time tonight, and thanks for coming on the show. So,
Who's got music going on?
Yeah.
So I just pressed the wrong button. I've got a mixer, and I didn't know
Oh.
it came through there, and so I accidentally pressed the wrong button. That's just absolutely delightful that you all heard that.
that was awesome.
Oh, of course, it had to be me that messed it up.
No, that was right on time there. That was awesome.
I was sitting here like, oh, just freeze. Hopefully, no one heard that.
No, that's all right, man. We have technical difficulties all the time around here, don't we, Marvin?
Oh yeah, we're used to it by at this point. I don't think it'd be a show if we didn't have something random going on.
That's right.
So all three of you are relatively new to the political scene when it comes to actual races. Like district chair obviously is an important position. You're still going to have to run for your seat. But running for the actual legislative position, I mean, how many people do you guys have living in your district?
We have about 17,000, roughly 2,000 people who routinely vote in the primary elections.
Okay. And then District 30, where is that at in the Bismarck area? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your location, your demographic, because you obviously have schools that are down there too. I know your meeting's going to be at Solheim Elementary here at the end of the month, but like, what's kind of your stomping ground?
So yeah, we're on the south side of Bismarck here. One of the major schools that I grew up around, Prairie Rose Elementary School, and then University of Mary is right in smack dab in the middle of the district as you go further south away from town. I think, if I remember correctly, our border of the district goes all the way down to about 1803, and then it goes over for a little ways. So we do reach further away from Bismarck, but then our northernmost border, I think, goes up to Expressway near the heart of town, and then it goes up to the highway as you get closer to the Oasis, if I remember correctly. I can't picture the map perfectly.
You kind of wrap around the bottom side of Bismarck area, but not all the way out to Lincoln, obviously, because that's what District 8 out there now, correct? Or
You
do you
get
guys-
into District 8 pretty quickly, go in that direction, yeah.
Yeah. So, but what's your main inspiration here for running? I mean, you're up against 30 years plus of seated legislators, so
Yeah.
that takes an awful big leap of faith to step into that arena, and I'm definitely glad you guys came on, because that's awesome to say, hey, we've had enough. But I'm sure you all had your breaking point where you're like, okay, I got to run here.
Yeah. Well, even those incumbents, for 30 years, they started off with zero experience. And at some point in time, they gained their experience, and now they've made a lot of sausage and ground up a lot of stuff in the Capitol Hill. And what we're looking at doing is taking a look at their voting record and saying, okay, our constituents in District 30 want this. And that's what we're listening to. And this is what we want to deliver. Whether it's property tax or whether it's CO2 pipelines or whatever it is, we want to hear and address those kind of issues that are important to North Dakotans. And then at the end of the day, to make it work for the rest of the North Dakota population.
Yeah,
So-
my hat. I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead,
Marvin.
Go ahead.
My hat's off to you guys, because one of the questions that we ask almost nightly when we're on with whatever guests that we have on is how do we get more people involved? How do we get new blood in there? And there's really no we haven't really heard an answer to that. So I'm glad to see that you three are running. What what goes into, like, how did this all transpire? Did you three obviously have a history together some way, shape, or form, or did you just decide individually that you were going to run, or how did that all happen?
So if I might chime in here, Adam and Dave are also on the District 30 Executive Committee. They're both serving as at-large members. And
Yeah.
there's a documented history in District 30 of some inter-party conflict,
Mhm.
which I think is true of a lot of districts across the state. But we've been interacting and talking with our legislators, the incumbents, for a long time, and deciding to run against incumbents is not a decision we took lightly.
Mhm.
It took a lot of thought, a lot of prayer, and a lot of conversation. But at the end of the day, I don't want to speak for Adam and Dave, but I just thought, well, somebody has to run because I don't feel that the district is being represented well, and somebody has to do it. And after much prayer, I decided to throw my hat in the ring. And like I said, I don't want to speak for Adam and Dave, so you guys want to chime in?
Sure, yeah. I mean, to build off of that, you said, how do we get new blood in there? Someone has to go up there and show them it's possible.
Mhm.
So why not be that person? Why not show
Mhm.
them that new blood can, in fact, do the job, can, in fact, serve them well? And you said we're going against 30 years of experience. Well, experience means nothing when it's not being put to use. And the matter of the fact is it has not been put to use. They are not serving the district well. And that is why we are challenging them. And that's what really drove me. I had wanted to be more involved, and then I saw an opportunity to get real work done. And I want to help the people of the district and the state in the most efficient way possible. And I think this is the way of doing that.
Mhm.
Sure, and I got involved in the state, in the District 30 politics about 2018, and where I went to Grand Forks State Convention where we elected Kelly Armstrong as our representative for North Dakota. And that's when I started to see afterwards, well, who are our representatives? And we got some issues and concerns, but I really wasn't I wasn't connecting with the people who are representing and making the laws. So I thought to myself, you know what? I got to stay connected with this process. And rather than stand on the outside complaining about it, I thought, well, I've got experiences, and the beauty about the legislature is it's full of people with lots of different backgrounds. But the background that I saw lacking was the people that understood the complexity of North Dakota's energy environment and the Swiss cheese situation that we are with the Midwest ISO and the Southwest Power Pool, how energy markets work, how transmission build out systems work, the pressures from the continuation of wind energy and the pressures to slow down and actually eliminate our coal, and the reliability problems that I see going on. We're at a critical point, even here in North Dakota. So I thought, you know what? I've got a lot of experiences in that world. I'll go to the legislature to help them work out the solutions here in North Dakota. So.
Cool. Good deal. Marvin, I know you got a lot of questions, but I got one more two-part question before we move on. And that is, so obviously your neighbor there in District 8, Jeff Magrum, he's running and he's been a focal point to the governor as of his last two elections. So I have a two-part question for you guys, and that would be is how do you guys plan to deal with that? Because I imagine with who you're going up against, that's going to be a contested race in itself, but I would imagine that the governor is going to be backing these three individuals. And then once you get there, how can I say this? How will you put up with the pressures that come with being there, being a freshman legislator, and dealing with the the hoopla that's with that, and all that, the pressures that go with that from the outside, and the special interest groups and stuff like that.
Let Justice start here. I think he is probably the best spoken of us.
I don't know about that, but to answer your question, Shiloh, yes, I do think the governor will be involved in this district. He's donated to at least 2 of the 3 legislators in past election cycles. It would not surprise me a bit. We expect to be putting up a fight against big money. We're going against the assistant majority leader, and we're going against the chair of Senate Judiciary, and the chair of Education's Appropriations. Like, we expect to be fighting competitively in that arena, but we're willing to put in the work in other ways too, right? We're going to be knocking every door. We're going to be concentrating on the primary voters. We're going to be answering phone calls, doing meet and greets, answering questions, town halls. I'd love to do a debate. We'll see if that happens. But we're not afraid to go out there and get our message out. And so I think that's going to be key, is just outworking. And I'm confident in our team's ability to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And the biggest point in this race for me is the fact that the people should be seeing that the current seats just want to throw money at them to win, whereas they should be seeking those who work. And so this is our work ethic being shown. It's shown how we will perform in office. And so honestly, I accept the challenge because it's an opportunity to demonstrate how we will act once we are in office. It's an opportunity to show how we work, like you said, under pressure. I mean, pressure from the governor, that's about as great of a pressure as we can get within the state. I mean, without the challenge, I would say that it would demonstrate what's happening in this district. It's showing that the people want something different and that there's a paradigm shift coming. And I would say that that's why we're running, and that's how we're pursuing this, not with the mindset of so much even just winning this race, but allowing and even pushing this shift to happen, because that's what the people want.
Okay, and I see this as a David and Goliath thing, but at the same time, with faith and working with, and when we're out listening to the people, it's amazing what they're telling us. And I think listening to what the District 30 constituents are asking us, what their concerns are, and having that as our benchmark to promote. And I think going forward, my gut is that we have, even though as we're inexperienced freshmen in this world, there's a 30-year background of voting records that are going to tell one story, and that we're saying, hey, you know what? We can do as well, if it's not better, than what you're seeing right now. And we can represent the people of District 30 that they're really not being heard. That's what we're hearing at this point.
So my follow-up question to that would be, last year, 2 years ago now, we saw a large number of candidates that lost at convention and still trying to primary out their opponents. And I've been hearing rumblings again this year that we're going to see people skipping their own endorsing conventions for their district and just attempting to primary to take out whoever has decided to run against them. Is that something you guys are worried about there? Are you worried about them skipping your guys' endorsing convention completely and just trying to primary you out? Or if they would win the endorsing convention, are you guys going to step aside and let them run through, or are you going to continue to fight the fight? Because, I mean, you're really kind of on short-term notice here with that 24th coming up for your meeting.
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't say we're worried per se, but we know, regardless of what would have happened, and this is what I've been told by the legislators directly, is that regardless of the results of the election, they plan to run in the primary. I have not heard from the incumbents whether or not they will be seeking the party endorsement. It could go either way. I don't want to say they will be there or they won't be there. I guess we'll see. But we're planning to win regardless.
Well, you, Justice, and Dave, if you guys would take this all the way to the primary and actually get Bosch and Nathe out, you drive a pretty heavy wedge right into the lawmaking in Bismarck. You look at Nathe this last session, he had 47 bills come through, 8 of them passed. And I'm not saying that they were good bills, because a lot of them affected small rural businesses in a negative way. And so the larger question I would have, because we do have a statewide audience here, is when you see bills that would come through that would kill funding to small businesses for technology development, if they were killing rural development funds, if they were like the oil extraction tax, where they were giving money to big business, is that stuff that you guys would be willing to stand up and vote against and say this is not right?
Yeah,
I think,
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I think you hit a very good point, Marvin, and being on the board of 2 electric rural cooperatives here in North Dakota, both Central Power and Capital Electric, rural economic development is critical. And whether it's taxes or wherever this legislature goes, it's got to fit for all North Dakotans. And we can't make it an urban versus rural situation. And equalizing that is going to be one of my main concerns and focuses, to assure that rural North Dakota has got the same playing field as a person out of Fargo.
And that's really cool, because I mean, if you look at Fargo, Bismarck, and Grand Forks, I mean, you have a third of the state's vote really right there. And to say, hey, I'm going to stand with the rural community when it's the right bill to stand, I mean, instead of killing incentive, promoting stuff like that, because like this last session, we spent what, $19 billion for the biennium?
Yeah.
Like, you guys are running on a conservative platform, so do you have ideas of where you'd like to see costs cut? I know you had mentioned the schools earlier, Dave, but we have a very inflated budget when it comes to 2 different departments. Health and Human Services and the schools take up 2/3 of our annual budget. So would you have thoughts on what to do there? Like for cost reduction, stuff like that?
In terms of employee or state employees?
Just the checks that we're writing, because I know you expressed frustration with the schools and what's happening there. And I think the teachers don't get paid enough. And I think that our superintendents get paid too much, but that's just a personal.
My oldest daughter is a school teacher at Bismarck High. And I agree with you. When I see what she does on weekends and on her vacations, they don't pay her enough, compared. She is a true teacher. But some of the administrative costs and such out there are, I think, out of hand.
Yeah, I think corporate welfare is a big issue. The government picking winners and losers in the market, I don't think is a good idea. And a lot of funding goes towards corporate welfare in various forms. And so, like Dave said earlier, making it so that the rural community doesn't have to compete with the city of Fargo, that includes not, giving money to special interest groups. That includes leveling the playing field, lowering the tax burden and regulations for all North Dakotans.
Yeah, I agree. And to build off of what Dave was saying with, teachers and superintendents and stuff, it's good to say that they need more pay, but also how can we increase rightful pay without increasing costs on the taxpayer? Take into consideration how many schools are being built and whether or not that is required for each school district. Is it necessary to have, a dozen new schools every time we decide to expand? I'm obviously exaggerating, but we have fairly decent bus services and we have great education near the center of Bismarck that can provide great education. And if it was given the proper funding and, for example, giving teachers a livable wage, that would increase that tenfold as well, and potentially could even avoid how can I put this, aggravating superintendents that often trickles back down to the teachers and the students suffering. That would be an ideal way of reducing the costs and the load, I would say, is just resizing our expansion rate to match our population. I mean, we're outspending states similar to us at similar rates by billions. That's beyond ridiculous. I think that would be a simple way of approaching it, is remembering our state's population size and what we need, not so much what we want. We tend to eat with our eyes here. And I think that if we introduced a different approach to everything, and I do mean everything, I think that our costs would go down drastically.
Well, and some of the biggest lobbyists you guys are going to see is going to be the Chamber of Commerce, the League of Cities, North Dakota United, the League of Counties. Like, they're going to be up there any chance that they can. And even if you look at during COVID, House Bill 1323, they were all up there testifying why masks needed to be instituted, stuff like that. If you look at their testimony throughout the sessions, they always lean to a very left-sided agenda, but they have a lot of money to throw towards lobbying and funding. So when you deal with lobbyists like that, what are you guys going to be? How are you going to approach that?
The simple fact of the matter is lobbyists don't make our bills. They don't make our laws. They can be good for information, knowledge, advice when trying to learn about a topic. But at the end of the day, it is legislators that have been elected to that position, not the lobbyists. They are to serve the will of the people and to be knowledgeable on those. And I would say that relates back to the second part of the question that Shiloh originally asked, is how we would stand the pressure, is remembering that we serve the people, not the lobbyists. And whatever may come, that is what we were put here to do.
You know, if I could just chime in here a minute, guys. There is a lot of problems with our education system. Let's just building buildings and different things. And like Marvin has said, is with North Dakota United, I think some of our bigger problems are with North Dakota United and some of these other unions and stuff and special interest groups. I mean, they're writing our curriculums. There's a reason why a school board doesn't act like a school board anymore, because they send them all down to Bismarck to learn how to be on a school board. So I think there's a lot more to our education system that we need to, basically, I would call for it to be blown up, because we've gotten to the point now, if you think about it, over even the last, so I was in high school in the 90s, even from what I went through to what my kids are going through now, and the different ideologies and stuff that they're pressing on. Some of the reason why I feel that the teachers aren't staying around, the good ones anyway, is because of all this stuff going on with the special interest groups. They aren't allowed to do their jobs. We also have, let's not put it all on the schools, let's put it on the parents themselves. We're the drop-off generation. When they're old enough, they go to preschool, or they go to daycare, then they go to preschool. So we have a lot of problems with our education system, and when I hear people talking about funding it, I wish they'd, it doesn't seem like they're looking at the big picture. And our teacher union, North Dakota United, is a big problem. And I would even say that DPI is a big problem. And that is something that you guys as new legislators are going to end up having to fight if you take that on. Or, like we're saying, there's the pressure. So I'm curious on what your guys' thoughts are on the education system, is not just as, the money, but what's going on in our schools. I mean, we got proficiency scores they're toting around, and it's 40% proficiency. Really? I mean, half these kids can't even read, let alone do math. They've got,
You'd think for the amount of money we're paying into this system, we'd be getting a higher quality education.
Yeah.
I mean, we're below average across the board, which is ironic because our motto is be legendary, not be below average, which I
Right.
always found was quite disappointing. I'd agree with you wholeheartedly. Now, it's such a big task to blow up the education system.
Mhm.
And to go back to what I was saying, we have to be careful not to eat with our eyes.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of hot ticket items that are going to be on our plate as we go into session. And it is obviously a big issue. I mean, I know friends that when they're in high school, they would be sent to detention and threatened in class for expressing differing views politely, kindly,
Mhm.
in prompted discussion. That's not right. That's not the rule and or job of the school to
Mhm.
do that. And that environment, like you said, has driven away good educators, or it's scared the good educators that stick around into just being quiet and going with the motions. And that
Mhm.
happens from top to bottom, from pre-K, even into higher education here, especially higher education these days. I would say the best way to approach that first is to reinforce parental rights to have a say about what happens to their kids within the school walls. What that looks like exactly, I haven't fleshed that out completely. Um, in the most ideal situation, it'd be nice if we could flip a switch and it was fixed, and parents could march in and say that we should not allow pornography on the shelves in the school. And I'm not saying that it's not possible, but I'm saying that's going to be a process. And
Mhm.
so I would say the ultimate goal would be to bring North Dakota standards back up, make it an environment that brings in strong educators. And that would go along with allowing them to have a living wage, a better pay, prioritize students over superintendents and teachers over superintendents, and so on and so forth. Treat those who put in the work for what they're worth. And teachers are invaluable. And that's coming from a homeschooler. I was not involved in the public school system. And I recognize the value
Mhm.
of the public school system. There is a place for it. And I think we just have to remember that they are people and that we can provide a better environment.
I would
Well,
agree.
to speak to what you're talking about there, Representative Christensen's already started to pave that path. And with us losing him, we need somebody that can continue that forward. We've had the parental rights bill, the primary stakeholder bill that came through this last session. We also had the bill for the definition of what a domestic terrorist is. And what those two bills really were doing was laying out the groundwork for not only us as parents to be the primary decision maker for our child, no matter the situation. It also allowed us to go to public meetings and have comments and have interactions with our elected officials, our school boards, our stuff like that, without getting branded or stuck on a watch list, which is something that we see nationally. So to be able to move that forward, Adam, that to keep that ball rolling would be amazing to see. You already have a firm foundation to start on there.
Yeah, I'd be honored to pick up where he left off. And like I said, I haven't been able to flesh that out entirely. It's good to set big goals. But if I'm being honest, I need more time, and that's what this process of campaigning, so I can present something strong that would benefit parents and students and teachers across all three branches of this school system that exists in North Dakota. I mean, there's public school system, private school, and homeschool. There are three demographics that are affected by how we approach this. And I would say I'd pick up where we left off and continue to solidify parental rights to have school choice. We have that, but how can we make it easier and more reliable? That's the question I've been asking myself. I don't have an answer for it quite yet. As soon as I do, I'll get back to you guys. But I mean, genuinely, what Representative Christensen did for us is like you said, you put it perfectly. It's an excellent foundation, and the only way we can go is up from there. Parents have the right to be involved with their children's education. That is a basic. That's not a debate. So how can we solidify that while keeping things intact and keeping things equal? Because there is that slippery slope fallacy that comes into mind by allowing universal access, because instantly you get into small squabbles about what should be taught, what should be allowed. So how can we have a process that gives them both the ability to vote and control that, but without allowing tyrants? And isn't that the constant question of democracy? How can we not have tyrants in everything? And so I'd say that's my goal, is to prevent tyrants in every branch that I plan on working in.
There's a good start on schools. Now, Dave, you said you sit on 2 different boards here for rural electric. You guys are kind of fortunate. You're not like MDU, where you have to go to the state every time you want to do a pay hike. But you guys also work on kind of a different way of receiving power. Because if you're in Bismarck, I mean, you got your 12% increase from MDU this last year, and it was something else.
Wow.
But like with the energy industry, I know we have this big push for going green. We have windmills popping up all over the state, and that's an animal by itself. But now they're talking about hydrogen capture up in the Newtown area. They're talking about the carbon capture, this pipeline. Personally, I would love to see a bill where they just, repeal 3822 completely, and that takes care of that issue. But I know it's not going to happen. But I mean, this is running along our border. I mean, is the pipeline going to be crossing into District 30 at all, or do they push it up and around?
You're talking about the CO2 pipeline, Marvin?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's from what I understand, that's what Summit has designed. And of course, the squabble at this point in time, it's another whole issue about property rights. And I'm concerned about this, having had a background history in building transmission lines across the country. You're always going to potentially find a holdout here and there that doesn't want a transmission line across his or her property. And for the betterment of society, you can use eminent domain and condemn the land, pay the property owner, take it, and build that transmission across that section of property. And that goes the same thing with a major highway or a pipeline, something that benefits the general public. The concern I really have with CO2 is, who are the benefactors? I mean, that's the question I'm asking. Who benefits?
Well, and to flip the question on the eminent domain, energy transmission, roadways, that's for betterment, that's for improving communities, that's for sharing stuff. Whereas if you look at the CO2 pipeline, really it's just turning us into a garbage dump, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's waste disposal. That's not energy provision. You know?
And I think I heard it said another way through Epic Times. If this passes, the next thing will be wind generation and solar panels, because it all fits into the Green New Deal, to climate change, and that whole area. If you bought into it, yeah, one thing, then you may think that's important. If you're not a climate change person, why would you bury plant food in the ground and pipe it through North Dakota and put it geologically in the ground? And there's a lot of issues involved with it, but I have a real concern with that. And not only that, but North Dakota is running out of generation to serve our own customer load, especially up in the Northwest Bakken pocket, as they call it. And if we continue to bury CO2, it takes 25 to 30% of the output of a coal-fired power plant to sequester and create CO2 and sequester it into the ground. So we're complicating the issue even more so. But who is the benefactor here? It's certainly not North Dakota. It certainly isn't us. And not only that, but my grandkids are going to end up paying for a federal subsidized $85 per metric ton of CO2 being sequestered into the ground for why? I mean, that's a question I've never had the answer to, other than, well, the federal government has bought into this program and we just need to do that. Well, that's not good enough for North Dakota. It isn't. It really isn't. I've sat at a meeting in Iowa with some corn growers when I was at a co-op meeting in September this last year, and they were grousing that I was from Bismarck, and they were all these Iowa corn producers, and they were concerned that the price of corn was going down because North Dakota was stopping the CO2 pipeline from being permitted through our state. And they benefit because they're corn grower ethanol producers and they get their tax payments. I mean, this is a mess. It really is a federal issue that doesn't really benefit a lot of North Dakotans personally. And like, as you said, Marvin, we're a dumping grounds. And what's going to happen to that CO2 down the road, sequestered in the central part of our state? I don't know. But I've seen some movie clips, videos on what a rupture of a CO2 line, 1,200 psi line happens. It's heavier than air, comes blowing out of the ground, and pretty much in its proximity, it asphyxiates everything in its path. So any living, breathing person or animal dies, until the wind blows it away. It's pretty concerning. Why would we want that near Bismarck? That is a real concern of mine, too. But the payment of that and the reason for it, I'm not for it. So I'm probably not a CO2 advocate.
Well, we've talked schools, we've talked taxes, we've talked a lot of eminent domain. We haven't gotten a lot onto the religious aspect, and all three of you have said that you're Christian. I know there was a lot of hot topic debate this last session regarding religion too, because I mean, you look at the book issues, you look at the trans bills and stuff like that, and I'm not asking your opinion on these still right at this moment, but the bigger one that I've been hearing too is the right to life, the anti-abortion stuff. And I know that's a hard topic to tackle, but you look at Ohio, they just recently passed a constitutional amendment for allowing abortion through petition. And I know we're a right to life state. We had all these backup contingencies put into place, but I really feel that should be something that we continue to support and continue to make sure that stays in place. And I know Planned Parenthood spends a lot of money on, again, lobbying, trying to get stuff done.
Yeah.
So that pro-life, that life protector thing is kind of a big thing.
It is.
So very big. I mean, I remember where I was when Roe v. Wade was overturned. I had just left the Creation Museum with a group of old high school friends. We had just left the pro-life exhibit, actually, and we had just gotten on the bus. And that was a magical moment. And so, like you said, we are a pro-life state. Our limit is still 6 weeks. That's still 6 weeks of a human life that need to be protected. And so I can't speak for Dave or Justice, but that'd be a goal that I have, is that eventually it's not allowed at all, because every human has a right to live, no matter how small and no matter how old. I mean, to think that we would consider throwing away a human life even younger than 6 weeks, at 6 weeks, whatever, is still concerning. I mean, you brought up religion from a Christian viewpoint. Life begins at conception. So I can see no reason why I could support anything above a complete ban.
Sorry, I know I've come up with a lot of hard questions, but
no, that's a good one. In fact, I want to say I'll echo Adam's thoughts and such. Sanctity of life. from conception to the end. If we're a society that is not willing to protect its most vulnerable, we're in trouble. And I believe that no matter what, it's wrong, it's a sin, should not be allowed. And I'm staunch against abortion.
Yeah, we're all in agreement. Taking that consistent pro-life approach. Something I'm concerned about in the upcoming years is fighting this on a two-pronged approach, because now we've got the question of euthanasia and this idea of preying on the elderly or the mentally ill. Or in some countries, I guess children now can qualify for euthanasia. And so, yeah, I'm pro-life from conception until natural death, without exception.
Canada's already starting it. Our neighbors to the north. So
I'm worried about building a wall across the southern border. I wouldn't mind one across the northern recently.
I didn't mention my grandfather, John Detloff, was a farmer just southwest of Harvey, North Dakota. I knew him when I was a little kid. He was drafted in World War I, and he was a lucky one. Instead of going to the trenches of France to go over the hill and deal with the World War I issue there, the federal government sent him to the Mexican border because they knew back then in 1917 that if bad people are coming into the United States, they're coming across the Mexican border, not the Pacific, the Atlantic, or Canada. He would be rolling in his grave if he saw the catastrophe going on right now at that Mexican border. And I used to be, when I was in the Navy, I was stationed down for short times at the El Centro Naval Bombing Range. And you could not believe the stuff that come across the border then. And that's before cartels have taken over. I cannot imagine what those people are dealing with down there. But we're going to feel it up here.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we already do.
Right.
Our crime rates have only gone up and up. And part of it is illegal immigration, but part of it is that there's been a moral decline. I think that's been allowed because we've just let things slip through, even in legislation. I mean, simplicity. I mean, I know that there was a bill that would have allowed for harsher punishments for repeat drug offenders. I believe it was those who made drugs and distributed it, and several key legislators, including my opponent in the Senate, voted against that. So we are subtly allowing this crime to happen. I mean, You jokingly mentioned the northern border, but North Dakota, actually, that we have more trouble people coming in the northern border because we are also focused on the southern border, as we should. I mean, it's an issue, but it's not a North Dakota issue entirely because we can't vote on protecting the southern border, but we can vote to prosecute drug dealers that are harming our communities and killing our children and our hardworking adults, and I mean all ages. That's pro-life. I think the term has always been thrown out by left-leaning people that Republicans are only pro-life until birth. That's not true. We believe in quality of life. Quality of life is ensuring a safe environment as best we can while allowing freedoms. I think that's our goal, is to provide a safe North Dakota.
Yeah. I'll echo on Adam's comments there. In my Rotary group, I know retired Chief Dan Dolan from Bismarck, Chief of Police. He's been out for 4 or 5 years. He's now a probation officer. And I'm going to have some time with him, but he said in the last few years, you'd be surprised where the crime has gone. And because I was kidding him the other day, I was saying, wow, you already know all the hideouts, man. You know where they're at. He says, no, things have changed and it's getting scary. And it's not just Bismarck, it's Fargo. You look at Fargo every week, there's shootings over there. We almost want to ignore it. But the crime situation in North Dakota is not getting any better. And whether it's the Williston area, across the I-94 area, we need to support and back up our highway patrol and our police officers to let them do their jobs. We've got we've got people out there that are handcuffing our own police officers, keeping them from really locking up the bad guys and getting them off the street. And that's one of the things I want to push for is on law enforcement. Let our law enforcement do their jobs. For God's sake, it's terrible what they're almost handcuffed themselves on what their abilities are in order to go after these bad guys and get them off the street.
I agree. So we got about 10 minutes or so. I'd like to go around the table here with you three, and why don't you each give us a priority that you want to work on in the legislature, and we'll go from there. How about you, our Justice? We'll start with you.
Sure. Well, kind of the three main issues that I'm concerned about are things that we've really talked about: property taxes, rising crime rates in Bismarck, and just protecting children, from a lot of this insanity and a lot of this radical gender ideology. If I had to summarize my campaign in 3 points, it would be those 3 points.
Okay. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next.
Sure.
Hey, I think my first and foremost, the reason I got into it would be energy. My background is energy, and I want to help North Dakota out in dealing with the complexities that we're up against with the development of reliable and affordable electric power, as well as our gas as well. I'm also concerned about taxation, and I'm kind of leaning on the property tax issues, as well as crime and education. As we touched a little bit about having a daughter involved in education, I get to hear the good, the bad, the uglies and stuff. So I want to be part of that if I can, be part of the solution.
And to build off that, I would say, first and foremost, lowering property tax to give the citizens the right to keep what's theirs, their hard-earned money, and to go with that, reducing wasteful spending across the board, because those go hand in hand. And third would be securing and protecting our rights. And I'm kind of cheating because I fit 3 into that, because I believe we have the right to life, the right to protect ourselves, and our parents have the rights to make the best decisions for their children, both medically and in the education system. And so that requires reform. As someone who is in the public, private, and homeschool sector of the school system, it's the parents and the children's right to have what's best for them.
Well, I just want to say that thank you guys for being here. It's nice to see 3 people step out and tackle this. You guys have a big mountain to climb. I'm sure you know that. It's not going to be easy, but I totally hope that you guys much success. I wish you guys much success, and you're more than welcome to come back anytime you guys want, and we'll always extend that olive branch to you guys. Is there anything else that you guys would like your district to know about you?
I would say come support us our convention, January 24th, 6 p.m. at Solheim. This is your opportunity. Come represent yourselves. After all, we want to represent you and what you want. This is your opportunity to do so at the localist of levels you can get. So I would encourage you, please do attend.
You bet. Dave, you have something to add?
And don't forget to vote in the June primary on June 11th.
There you go. There you go.
Okay. Thanks again. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Fun year.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks for having us on.
You bet. So that's Justis Amundson, Adam Rose, and Dave Charles. They are the contenders for District 30. So, and the convention is, when was that again? I'm sorry.
January 24th.
January 24th.
Solheim.
Nicely
6
done.
p.m. at Solheim School. There in South Bismarck. So, all right, gentlemen, thank you.
You bet. And thank you for doing this.
Yes,
You
thank
bet.
you. Have a good one.
You
Take
too.
care.
So those are the contenders for District 30. Wow. I wish them luck. They've got a big chore in front of them, and hopefully they can come out. So
No, and it's great to see.
it is.
It's nice when you ask a question, you don't get that spit, shine, and polished response. I like the candid responses tonight, and I know it was kind of some loaded questions that there really isn't an answer to, but
No.
it's nice when you can have an honest conversation.
Right. Yep.
Well,
Well, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So Friday we tentatively have Lori on, correct?
Yep.
Lori Hins.
Yep.
And
The only thing that she said that would stop her is if she had an endorsing convention that popped up. The last time I heard, there haven't been any scheduled for this Friday.
okay.
So hopefully we should be good to go with that. And
Okay.
then, yeah, the guys from District 8, just ahead of their endorsing convention here this next Tuesday. Their convention will be Saturday the 13th, I believe is the date.
Mm-hmm.
Down at Hazelton at the high school.
Yep.
So
That's District 8.
yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what we see coming out of District 8 and District 30 here, because I mean, District 8's kind of my backyard. It's where I spent my middle childhood growing up. So it's kind of a personal district for me, just like Lair is in District 26. So it's I always pay attention.
Yep.
But no,
Well,
District 30 should be a good one to watch, because I mean, Bosch and Nathe really kind of spearhead the house out of the Bismarck area. You add in Porter, Heinert, and Martinson, and really you have kind of the top 5 for Bismarck when it comes to house. Unfortunately, we only have a couple of them that are up for election this year.
yeah. Well, slowly but surely, right? So
slowly but surely. I mean, I'd like to see a shakeup in District 35, considering, you know, these 3 that they're up against have about 35 years of collective legislative seating, whereas Martinson, I think, has almost half a century all by himself.
Yeah.
So, but that's another topic for a different day. But no, if you guys are running, please get a hold of us. If you're running for your district, we're on even number districts, looking at possible redistricting again. It'd be good to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, you know, and we kind of talked about it earlier tonight with these 3. It's gonna be a war, and the reason I say that is because I don't think a lot of the incumbents are gonna announce. They're just gonna go straight to the primary, and so it's in my opinion, it's gonna be even harder for the newcomers, to gain that traction or steam, or if we can even get anybody involved. That's the problem, and I feel the last couple of weeks have kind of opened my eyes. Let's just say that. I mean, this whole deal with Nico. Okay, so, and again, I'm not condoning what he did. What he did was wrong, and I've told him that. I've had several conversations with him. We can all admit that. But here, and this is what I was trying to get from them tonight as well, is here we have a freshman legislator. He's got a great conservative record, right?
Yep.
Now you're gonna hear the other side say, well, you know, the conservatives or the grassroots, however you want to put it, they're saying that he shouldn't resign because of his record, and that's wrong, and this and that, whatever. They're gonna toss that however they want to. But here you have a guy that has a pretty good conservative record, freshman, right?
Yep.
Freshman legislator, they had to put up with a lot of pressure from the lobbyists, right? And I don't think, I mean, it's easy for me to sit here or whoever to sit here who's never been in that position before and say, hey, how are you going to deal with that pressure? Because it's a lot. I've talked with some first time legislators before on this and stuff, and one of them, I haven't talked to him since, but one of the big votes that I was really disappointed in was with Keith Boehm, when it came to the property rights deal. And that was one of the main reasons why those people worked hard to get him elected down there. So I guess where I'm going with this long, boring story is Luke Simons would say, which I wore my hat for him just because he made the news today again. Go Luke. Anyway, there's going to be a lot of pressure on these new guys, even coming back to their second legislative session. I believe it's even going to be worse. And so between people not announcing, I got something on my finger, sorry. People not announcing and just going straight to the primary, it's going to be a hard push for somebody new, but I hope that there's more like these three gentlemen here that can take that step out and do it for their state and their kids or grandkids, whatever they may have. So I just I see this being I think these conventions are going to be nothing but a circus. I'm starting to think that the North Dakota GOP convention is going to be nothing but a circus. They're not taking any. The only hard line they've taken is having Nico resign. Where's Kevin Kramer? Why are they not putting pressure on him? I mean, if you think about it, I mean, just on the radio today, they're like, well, we're giving Kevin Kramer and his family time. Okay, I can understand that. But what about Deputy Paul Martin and his family? What does Kevin Kramer need time for from the embarrassment? What about Paul Martin's family and his kids and grandkids? Nothing from either side. And so getting back to the point, and even that Luke was trying to make, is if we're going to hold one person, if we're going to hold their feet to the fire, why aren't we holding everybody's?
Yep.
Now, granted, it's a little different situation, but he's our senator. Where is he? I don't get it. And then we've got, why isn't the GOP coming out against or for or whatever? Why aren't they taking a stance on this pipeline stuff? I mean, we got a lot of issues. And it just kind of seems like we're just, well, whatever happens, happens. I mean, we don't want to rock the boat per se. I just, and I feel like that's some of the reason why people have just given up on us. Like, it doesn't matter what we do or what we say. Our voices aren't heard anyway. So,
you know what I want to hear one person that's running for legislator say? Just the only thing that matters to me after this last session. I want somebody that will have the gall to stand up and say, if I have not read and followed up on a bill, I will not vote on it, instead of just voting down the line.
That would be a start.
That's a pretty simple ask. If you did not have time, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard, oh, well, that's not how the bill was presented to us.
Yeah.
There was 1,000 bills this last session. There was $19 billion on the line. If I have not read the bill, I'm not going to vote on it.
Period.
You would have my support.
Yep. Period.
Not that I have any blessings to give, but
yep.
If somebody running from my district said that, it was our endorsing convention, If I have not read the bill, I will not vote on it.
Mm-hmm.
You have my attention.
Yep. No, I just would like to see. I mean, I'd like to see the party just come out on some hard stances. I mean, I get phone calls and texts every day about people being upset that this stuff isn't being talked about, and it's just like, we don't get any answers.
Well,
And I'm not trying to crucify Kevin Kramer by any means, but here's the thing: I'd like to see him come out and say, you know what, this is a bad deal. I'd like to see him up front and center on some of these issues, the drugs that are going on in our state. I mean, pick an issue.
yeah.
Pick an issue. Instead, no, we're gonna hide, and then now we're just supposed to push him through on this election, right? Like we're not gonna take any stances, and that goes for all of them, every single one of them. I'm so tired of the cronies and the phonies. That's what. Let's just call it what it is. I'm tired of it, and I think a lot of other people are, and that's why we don't get the participation that we need. And it's sad because what's going to happen is we're going to lose our country.
Yep.
If people don't step up. And
Well,
by the way, politicians, it's not a democracy. Well, it might be now. It was a republic. That's what it was. It's unbelievable. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I mean, it's such a pay-to-play scheme.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the three that we just had on. Great potential candidates.
Yep.
But I will bet you, that within the next 3 to 6 weeks, all of their opponents will be taking money from coal. They'll be taking money from oil. They'll be taking money from PAC, taking money from PAC, taking money from PAC. I really think that we're at the point now, folks, where in North Dakota, we need to be having our legislators with either a docket next to their name of who all is sponsoring them, or they need to be starting to wear NASCAR jackets, because we could have Pfizer patches, we could have oil patches, we could have, you name it, it's there. 13 legislators took money from Pfizer this last session, which is the first time ever in North Dakota history.
Say that one more time so I can hear you. How many?
13 legislators, which was enough to change the vote as to whether or not there should be a study on the mRNA effects.
But yet we're a supermajority Republican, right?
Yeah.
And we believe in health freedom.
Yep.
Could have fooled me. Could have fooled me.
But no, the double standard needs to stop.
It does.
How many of our other legislators have Deweys underneath their belt?
Quite a few.
But you look at the statewide races. So far, we have Baszler, we have Beadle, we have Gallion. We're probably going to have half a dozen for governor. But they're not going to challenge the treasurer. They're not going to challenge DPI, or if they do, it's not going to be somebody that's going to take out Kirsten. They're going to challenge Josh because they're scared of him. They're going to dump money into his opponent. They're not going to challenge Godfrey. So the big races statewide that we're going to see the money dumped on will be auditor and governor. And that's scary by itself too. But these local races, we're going to see the PACs paying money to candidates for their run. And the question we need to be asking is, what have they been asked to do in return if they're elected?
Yep. I agree.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I think we're going to name this name this part of the show final thoughts.
Sure.
Yeah, but at any rate, no, we'll have Lori on Friday, and then Magram and District 8 on Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to the next couple shows. With that, folks, we will see you on Friday.
Y'all have a
Have
great
a
night.
good evening.